I'm going to talk to you a little bit about we're at the early part of this here at Univision, but when Operative called to ask me kind of like, what are some of the things you're doing with Operative that might be outside of the usual use cases, I kind of explained that we tried to do actually what the panel was talking about earlier, was we're trying to simplify, we're trying to automate the stuff that's simple, or make the stuff that should be simple, simple. And that's kind of where we started with this, and it just so happened to kind of open up a world of opportunity for us around how we utilize the data from all of the sources of data we have. Pretty common problem. Operative, what we tried to do with Operative just happened to be kind of the seed, and it was born out of that. So I thought I'd approach this a little differently. Instead of just taking you just through a bunch of slides, which I will do, by the way, and be very stringent, I tried to be a bit more philosophical about it. So it was more the purpose of this is a lot of automation, a lot of analytics that help us improve the way we do things. And the key really was do more with less. And you'll see why in a second. This is what I hear commonly. We're about to cut your budget, but you need to do everything you were doing before and all the things you said you would do this year, so we hit our budget, we really value you, blah, 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 all this stuff. I think I hear that every budget cycle, every single time. So it's like, okay, I'm going to really take this one on and try my best to do even better than last year with all this other crap that you give me. Okay, so how do I turn that into a strategy rather than like kind of be downbeat about it and just trying to work through it? I'm like, how do I turn this into something else? Rather than just, someone's giving me a task, go accomplish the task, how do I make this more strategic that can help other areas? And that was kind of the approach that we took when we thought about what I'm going to take you through, which was all about automation. And I keep saying this around the company to people, is make Univision smarter. I don't know that it's great branding. I'm a finance guy, but that's kind of the way I try and think about it, is rather than us just keep doing the same thing we've been doing for 20, 30 years in TV and just, the market's moving this way, let's go after it, and it's going this way, let's go after it. Let's actually be smarter about everything and help kind of drive some of the way our buyers are thinking about things. And automation is the first port of call that we came across and we thought about, and it's particularly relevant to Operative because that was one of the source systems that was important for all of this. So the initial problem when I talked to Operative, and again, I thought it would be super boring, but it's certainly the beginning of what I'm going to talk to you about today, was what was our problem that we had? We had, and pretty much everyone here has this same problem. We have a ton of areas a ton of systems that we need to look at to bill, to just do simple billing. You've got to have viewability, you've got to look at the demo stuff, fraud, you just need everything, third-party ad servers, fourth-party ad servers in some cases. Then you've got to pull in all the branded data and all these and all of that views from all the branded. We have, I don't know if it's the same for everyone else. I kind of fell on the floor when I heard this. We have 200 social handles for Univision, which just seems completely insane to me, but it's the case. When we do branded deals that run across the social handles, we have to pull them all in manually. They're all completely manual. Facebook the count on Facebook is if you do a branded video, it doesn't stop nice and cleanly at the end of the month for you to bill. It just keeps on counting. So you need to go in there at like 12:01 and look at the count. All these problems that essentially result in a lot of people doing a lot of work, a lot of discrepancies resulting in lost dollars, and it all comes to monetization. And that was the initial problem that we were trying to solve, was like, how do we why is this is like the core, someone mentioned it before, it's like, make the stuff that's kind of table stakes, just billing media. That should be simple so that we can focus our efforts on doing cool stuff around content creation and branding and so forth. But no, we're still spending silly numbers of man hours billing. So we just went out and said, we need to automate this as best as we can. The problem I just went over, so it's just about everything is very manual. The consequence is, you've got multiple groups getting involved in billing. You've got sales ops, you've got ad ops, you've got rev ops, you've obviously got finance, you've got other people getting pulled in. It's all very manual. And then there's also time. You do all accounts, you send the bill, you send the invoice. The agency's like, no, wait, I just did the counts on my side too. So they've got teams doing the same thing. and there's a 17-cent difference, so please send us a new invoice. Pretty typical problem. Pretty stupid when you actually talk about it out loud as well. Anyway, so that was a constant. So I'm going to take you through some stuff we did, but remember, I'm doing more with less. Literally the whole blah, blah, blah term at the beginning, they actually did come back to me and say, oh, that whole thing about less cutting costs, it's actually happening, so you actually do have to do more with less, but we value you, et cetera, et cetera. So great, thank you. And we're in a time where Univision is actually going through, we're looking at how to grow, and we want to invest in places. Yeah, you got to self-fund that all on your own. Okay, great, thanks. So we're back to this problem. So here's how we solved the problem in a nutshell, and then I'm going to stop talking about billing and talk about some of the other stuff that we ended up, the opportunities that opened up after this. But this is essentially what we did with the automation. This is on the left is the original process flow. Again, it's pretty standard. Someone's maintaining trackers for the social stuff. Someone's going into third-party ad servers and all that, and it goes through that process flow all the way to inputting into invoice templates, put that in the system, spits out an invoice, you send it to someone, and all that really happened now, and it's still not quite finished, but you can see that on the right-hand side that it's a hell of a lot simpler than it was before. All we have to do now is someone is maintaining a tracker, and then it basically gets automated through a system we've implemented, and it feeds it all into Operative One. And the way a lot of this the way it works with Operative is sending data one way, we're aggregating it with all the other data, and then we're pushing it back through the finance function of Operative to be able to create these invoices. Finance guy, better put some quant around this. So previously, 8 days worth of work, just put some figures around average salaries, $27,000 to $44,000 a year, just to do billing. Just to do billing of things that we were looking to automate. After 1 day, invoice creation, someone still has to go create an invoice. So $40,000 in savings per year compared to what it was before, and I'm not even considering ancillary costs like our internal audit teams. Wow, this conversation's really boring now. Our internal audit, the good stuff's coming. Our internal audit teams are also, when it was super manual, they hate it because there's no controls and they just despise that sort of stuff, and they're all over you like, oh, well, there's control issues here and control issues there and blah. It's gone away once you automate and you systematize it because those control issues are in place inherently. So I didn't even include that when I looked at quantifying stuff back of the envelope, but you have all of these other things that also improve from that perspective. So systems used for automation, and this hopefully gives you, if it didn't already, a bit of insight into like the manualness that was before. 100 plus social accounts, found out it's actually nearly 200, as I mentioned before. API access into Operative, API access to yield management systems, log access or log files coming in from the ad servers. At Univision, we use 2 ad servers. You can probably guess which they are. API access to CRM data and API access to Google Analytics. Those last 2 we have now gone on to utilize for some other things. Wasn't part of the billing problem that we've talked about. But by combining all of these systems, like Operative and all of the audience systems and the ad systems, we've basically been able to exponentially increase the use cases around everything we do. Okay, so hopefully this is the more interesting stuff. The result of it for us internally is that we were able to become more advanced in everything we do, create great content, custom content for advertisers, but it was data-driven. We're informing what kind of content to create, for whom, for what brands, for what audiences, etc., and actually change the way we go to market in terms of branded sales in total. I'm going to fly through these slides. There's a lot of them. All I really wanted to do with these slides is kind of show you that what we were able to do with this stuff has spat out a lot of really cool analysis, and it's all automated. But it kind of takes you through a little bit of the workflow that we've been able to do around stuff on branded content, so step 1 is identify and evaluate. So this one is, okay, we want to create something for someone, it could be anything. We want to launch a new vertical. So it's a content-driven type of approach. We want to launch a new vertical in food. We just so happen to be doing that one. Or it could be, we want to, pitch something to an advertiser, so we need to go do some analysis around something relevant. And so that's what we are able to do here is identify and evaluate. This just so happens to be the Facebook data pulled together, but it actually pulls in all of the data from all these sources, things like Google Analytics, we can see our O&O data, operatives, so we can see all of the past revenue data associated with whatever that initiative might be, social data from Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, some YouTube data, they don't give us a ton, but basically all of the distribution platforms on which we are today, we aggregate all of that data, we kind of like merge it, cleanse it, dedupe it and all that stuff to get literally a full picture, and put first-party data in there too to get a full picture of what the opportunity could be, whether we're taking this to a client or we're just thinking about what do we need to create next in terms of content. This is a sales example. We can also do market assessment. Again, we've pulled in public data that also comes into the system. Facebook is actually pretty nice at giving you a lot of their public data. So for one example, but in this particular example, we were looking at food. So we were able to pull all the market data around things like Kiwi Limon, Tastemade, and all these guys who are already doing this in the market, and compare ourselves to them. What's our value proposition versus them, when we take it to a client. Bunch of competitive analytics. What's really good here is we get to inform content. So this is literally telling, and if you think about it this way, we're trying to create kind of a machine. As content creation requires obviously creative mindset and all of that, but what we were trying to create is take them down a path when they create content to inform what they're doing and how they're looking at things. And this is kind of pre-campaign or pre-creation, but it's also during a campaign. In this particular example, you can see here, what we're looking at is what is the best way to post a video in this case, it's on Facebook again. What's the length of the video? What should it be? When should you post it? On which handle? Against which target audience? So if you have a cohort of people you want to target for food, there is kind of sub-cohorts within there. Do you want to get that sophisticated and go after particular ones for one reason or another? Food, there's recipes, but there's also, that might be editorial, or just more instructions of how to create things. Videos, you may have video recipes, and the audience for those may be different. So understanding all of these things is essentially what this allowed us to do. We don't want to take the creativity away from the content teams, but we want to be able to inform them so that then they can go and do their job. Effectiveness, this is literally we get to post level of detail, being able to see, okay, how did every single thing that we post perform? And then we can analyze how it's doing, we can tweak, we can modify what's going to come, and so forth. So this is just, again, it's just all informed by data in terms of the way content is created and the way it was distributed on the web. Lots of graphs just to show you. Basically what I'm really showing here is we're just monitoring everything you can see around engagement, frequency patterns, and we do a bunch of pattern mining around this stuff because the plan here is, now that we've got all this analytics that was spat out from bringing all these systems together, the next step is then, it's kind of like the machine I talked about, the factories. You want to automate all this stuff so that it's, you don't have a bunch of data scientists doing this for you. It's all automated, it's through a process, and it simplifies. Content engagement, just a bunch of analytics that we have around here. Virality and breakout prediction, so that's the next step we've started to go to now is, okay, how well can we predict how well a particular post is going to perform? Predicting that something's going to go viral is obviously incredibly tough, but what we can do here is look at which ones did go viral and why. Can we replicate? I think something might be 1,000x, might perform 1,000x better than a typical video does there, but even if you just get 100x, you've done a good job in terms of predicting. So that's where we're going now. We're not quite there yet, but we've certainly started to look at those sorts of things. Again, this is all to inform the content creation and sales too, from that standpoint too, in terms of taking things to clients. It's all about informing and empowering all those people that do that work. So really in closing, just quite simply, we tried to solve one problem to begin with. It was a billing problem. It was incredibly manual. It was time consuming. You were taking people away from the work they should really be doing, sales and ops and those guys who you really want them to be doing sales and ops and not focused on billing, but it was so manual that those people were getting drug into this. They would hate the end or the beginning of the month just as much as every other person because they knew that, oh, it's that time of the month. You got to help us pull this data together. And obviously we wanted to do it in an automated way. That was the whole point. And we did. And we automated that problem mostly. But the big game really was that, and the chart on the right here is we tried to solve one problem and all of this other stuff was born out of that, which has helped us become much more sophisticated, not just in the billing piece, which was the initial piece, but in everything else we do forward-facing around whether we're looking to create a new content vertical or whether we're just trying to look at pitching new campaigns to sales teams, to buyers, sorry. And again, all came out of one simple problem that we were trying to solve. So I guess the takeaway is not to do more with less, but to do better with less, and that's kind of the way I've been trying to think about it. This is a real, kind of a problem I'm actually dealing with today. My friends in corporate cutting budgets and telling me to do the same as I was before. So I think it was a good use case. We're at the beginning of this, but in the very short amount of time that we've had on it, we've already done a tremendous amount of work, and now it's just about improving what we do, optimizing that, and working with all the teams that can benefit and seeing how we can automate more and more things across the company, and take it from there. That's it. Thank you.